we just scaled the brand from, it was like 0 and now they're doing like 70, 80K a day in like 5 or 6 months or something like that. We're making 5 to 10 videos a month. This guy's making 100 to 500 videos a day.
Here's what most brands do. Copy competitor ad, refresh the ad account, hoping for it to convert, watch the ad fail. Majority of the time, 99%, get lucky when your ad works 1% of the time, and wait for your competitor to upload more ads so that you can copy them. Great way to stay small, right?
It's not all the time you can sit down and chat with a $100 million per year brand owner, but I had that opportunity and look what it's done for us.
All right, back in the podcast studio today, yet again with Mr. Spencer.
What up?
So back today, the previous podcast we did was going through some of my tweets, right? The things have changed a little bit, right? Now we're going through Spencer's tweets as well.
Bro, that was a podcast where I didn't even talk that much. I'm proud of myself.
Things have changed a bit more, Now it's all your turn to talk, of course.
All right.
Previous podcast, we went through a lot of sauce, went in depth into a lot of different things. So we're gonna be picking your brain a bit more, right? After all this money you've generated, you've done a few things here and there. Right? So we're just going through your tweets now. Let's begin. So the first tweet: it's not your CBO, it's not your bid type, it's not your targeting, it's not your market. It's your damn creatives. I'm sorry to tell you, but they suck. Stop trying to solve your creative problems by clicking buttons. It won't do shit. But if you keep making more ads, put your ego aside, and continue to learn from each one, eventually you'll make creatives that suck less, and you'll be able to scale further with a 80K per day screenshot. Pretty good. No, not only that, 30K profit from that too. Tell us a bit more.
This actually came from a client interaction, which was something that I think a lot of my content comes from, just like day-to-day stuff of what's going on. But yeah, I got a very long email from a brand. Like they it's funny is I think they scaled like 150 or 200% last year, which for any brand, like they'd be, any brand would be pumped with that. They're multi 7 figures, but for them it was a little bit underwhelming because they wanted to do a lot more, and obviously they were seeing a lot of inventory, so I get it. But long story short, basically they sent me an email saying they wanted to test all these things. Like, I want to test ASC. Can we start doing some ABO testing? Can we try this? Have we tested interest? Maybe we need to try these interests and that, and blah, 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 blah. And I kind of just snapped a little bit. I was like, bro, it's your damn creatives. Like, that's all it is. And I think, I've actually kind of learned this from you, because the funniest thing is, people jump in and evolve, and obviously we give them tons of sauce. But like, as a joke, we say, like, people join Evolve, and what do we tell them? Creatives. It's like every question they ask, it's like creatives. And it's funny because I'm actually starting to see this a lot more, even on Twitter. There's some big dudes in the space that have 8-figure brands, work with 8 to 9-figure brands. And, they're just saying, like, people severely underestimate like how crazy creatives can be for scaling your business. Like, that a lot of the time it's just your creatives. Like, literally, we've seen the shittiest landing pages, terrible offers, even saturated products. Great creatives, doesn't matter, right? And so I think we were talking about copium last pod, but it's like all of this shit that you're trying to do, it's just cope. Like, it's your creatives, they suck. That's all it is. And I think it's hard because, like, for a lot of our brands, and we actually lost a client because of this. He was like, I just don't get it. Your guys' creatives, they look great. Like, every time I see them, I'm like, how are they not converting? And to me, what I said to him, I was like, bro, they're not good. They suck. I don't care how good they look, right? I don't care if you want to put it on a billboard. They're not converting. So they're not good. They suck. And I think it's very, very hard for people at times to, deal with that, honestly. And to kind of wrap this point up, I think the problem is a lot of people go from not doing creatives and then hearing that creatives will solve their problems, which they will, right? And then they do a bunch of creatives and they don't work. And they're like, oh, well, creatives don't work. Or I don't get it. Like, it has to be my media buying because everybody says creatives work. I'm making creatives, but I'm still not scaling. What's going wrong? But the problem is their creatives just suck. And that's something that took us a long time to figure out too, is like actually how to make good creatives. And so, yeah, I think that tweet kind of says it all, man. It's just your creatives. They suck. Like, that's all it is.
Yeah. People think that just making more creatives will solve their problems, right? But it's just like, this was a saying, people always say, like in sports, right? Just because you practice doesn't mean you'll be good at it.
Practice makes perfect.
Yeah, perfect practice makes perfect.
Yeah, exactly.
yeah, so onwards to the next tweet, just to continue on this point, right? If you want to make more winning ads, you have to do boring shit. The majority of marketers only review ads that win. But if you only review ads that win, that means you're reviewing 5 to 10% of the ads you make. And for some brands, they don't even review any ads at all. If you want to get ahead of 90% of marketers and make more winning ads, start reviewing the 90% of ads that don't win. Why do we think this ad failed? Was this the right angle? How do we execute this? How could we make this ad better? Success with Facebook ads isn't sexy. It's boring. Study more losing ads to know what not to do and watch how many more winners you make as a result.
Yeah, I think a lot of people just need to start reviewing ads in general, as I said there. I think that's the best place to start. If you and I think it's going to be awkward at first, and that's why it's hard for people to review ads and get anything out of it. Because I remember the first probably 100 ads we reviewed, it's like we're like, why is this working? And we're like, I don't know, TikTok response bubble, like, like it's a skill, and I think something that's super cool. Again, shout out to Evolve is, dude, after like reviewing so many ads with these dudes, because on the one-on-one calls, I don't know about you, but for me, it's just like they want me to review their ads. It's like I've just reviewed so many ads now that it's almost it honestly is a skill to be able to figure out why ads work. And I think that's obviously what we try to bridge the gap for people that come and work with us. But I think to get there, you have to also review ads that aren't winning. But for a lot of people, it's hard to do that because they just feel like they need to keep making more ads, right? And especially with us at the agency side, it's like, clients are paying us for a certain amount of deliverables. We got to make a certain amount of ads every single month. And it's like, oh, I don't have time to spend an hour reviewing ads today. So I just got to keep making more. And that's the loop that so many people fall into. But the problem is you just keep making trash over and over and over again. And so I think what I would tell people to do is now, if I was to adjust that tweet, review your shitty ads or your losing ads, but then also compare them to a winning ad. And if you don't have a winning ad, and that's another completely different topic, but it's important to mention that if you have a quote unquote winning ad that's spending $200 a day getting you a 1.4x, like is that really a winning ad? Like, not really. So what you should do to give you some actionable sauce is get on a tool like AdSpy. Or if you're broke, super broke, go to the Facebook ad library and go to, the longest running ads. That's not as accurate. The most accurate way to find winning ads is AdSpy, filter by shares. You'll get pretty close to winning ads. And look at your competitors or look at just people in a niche and look at what their ads are and compare that to you. And that for a lot of like evolvers that I've done that with has been a massive unlock for them. And they're just like, oh yeah, like, this ad is, spending, and what's cool about this is we reviewed ads that spend 50K a day. Remember when we did that with the team? Mm-hmm. We reviewed an ad that was spending 50K per day, and then we compared that to our ad that we thought was good. And we're like, wow, this ad is so shit, right? And so the TLDR of this is, one, start reviewing ads today. If you're not, go and review your winners and try to figure out what is making them win. And I think one small point, and I'm supposed to be on the TLDR here, but one small point on this is that what makes ads win is usually not the structural things. The structural things play a piece, right? But if TikTok response bubbles were the reason why ads won, then every single ad with a TikTok response bubble would win. You know what I'm saying? And so like that's, you want to make sure that you're not making the wrong learnings, but any learning is better than no learning. I'll start with that, but the most important thing is try to dig deeper. Like listen to what you were talking about this. Listen to what the creator is saying, right? Listen to, or look at where the creator is. Like what's their environment? Look at how the congruence is. I think congruence has been massive for us, even in videos and in, images. Like, does the headline and the image actually match, or does what the creator's saying and what she's doing actually match? And I know I'm going off on a tangent here, but another great example of this was, I was reviewing an ad for another Evolve student, and the title said like POV, here's how to get rid of like tired mom eyes. And you just heard a baby crying in the background. So it's like, you're going to 100% believe, it's so subtle, but you're going to 100% believe that she's a tired ass mom just because of audio, right? So there's all these things that compound, and like, I just get so excited about it because it's so cool. It's super nerdy. But once you get into that, it's like, you just learn so much. So TLDR, to go back to what I was trying to say, and then we'll wrap this up, is make sure you review your ads. Just start there, review winners, then review the ads. If you don't have time to review all of your losing ads, review the ones that you are really confident in, because if you're really confident in an ad and it didn't work, then something's wrong, right? And then if you don't have any winning ads, make sure you look at some of your competitors' ads that you know are winning or have a good guess that they're winning, and compare your losing ads to those. And a lot of times you'll find the weakness in them. And I know there's a point that you're probably going to bring up right after this, but the most important thing is those learnings you have to action. And you have to make sure that on your next creative test that you do, you actually go through a checklist to make sure all of those learnings that you process, this next creative actually follows through.
Yeah, the hardest part for people is they look at the ad, try to do learnings, they don't know what the hell they're supposed to learn on, right? And I think that's a process. First, we've done it for a long enough time that we know what to look for. But when you're just starting out, not all your learnings is going to be 100% accurate, and that's fine, right? More importantly is, okay, you have the learnings already. You said take action on them. Okay, I have the learning on this ad now. I'm going to create a new ad with these learnings. Make sure that you have a strong hypothesis. Okay, test this learning. Did it do well? Yes or no? Then from there, you figure out, okay, this learning, was it accurate or no? This way, you actually know what works and what doesn't. Over time, you do more of this, learnings, test it, yes or no. You get to the point where, you know what doesn't work and you know what works. You cut away all the bad to get to the good. Eventually, you get to your next winning ad through these learnings.
Fire.
And see your next tweet talking about congruency as well. Okay. Same video, same copy, same offer, different LP. One LP is generic, the other landing page is fully congruent with the ad. Here's the difference so far today. And now one of them is at a 1% conversion rate, the generic landing page. The one congruent is at 10% conversion rate. 10x the performance. Tell us a bit more.
This was a huge unlock for us because, we've done traditional CRO and it was an absolute disaster. And I just think so many people underestimate LPs. And I think the thought process I'm trying to give people is, because we get asked a ton, should I build an LP for this, right? And what I'm trying to get people to do is think of LPs like ads, right? It's like, should I do an ad about this? It's like, well, yeah, you probably will, right? Or even the best one is like, should I create LPs in general? It's like, well, should you create ads? Yes, obviously, right? And so, yeah, that case study specifically, we've seen that. I mean, we scaled an entire brand. They were up 150, 200% all, for the last 6-7 months just with an LP. All we did was just make it more congruent to the actual ad. And I think a lot of people might struggle with that. If you want some kind of AI sauce and you've made it this far, there's a lot more involved, but, take your ad, right? Your winning ad, and give it to a tool like ChatGPT, ask it to break it down, take that and then give it to Claude and ask it to kind of write a landing page or a listicle or something around that to kind of get a good framework done for messaging, and then make sure you're actually a good copywriter, a good marketer, you go through it, and then just build a new landing page and just test it, right? And if you use a tool, shout out to PageDeck and Ryan over there, savage dudes, you can build it fast. You can build a page in a couple hours and you're good. The only thing that matters on there is messaging and imagery. And so I think in that scenario specifically, what really ended up happening was we just closed, like we just carried the customer journey. That's it. Like, and that's all congruence is making sure that what this person is clicking, we're actually delivering on the back end. And we've been out in Dubai for the last week. All these dudes out here, a lot of them are ripping 3, 4, 5 million a month with their stores, and a lot of the times it's image ads or videos with like an open loop. And it goes to a savage advertorial or savage LP, and it just crushes for them because they understand that everything after the ad is where all the money is made. And so I think for this example, it's at a little bit smaller scale in the screenshot, but at the end of the day, you have to make sure that you're thinking through a customer journey. Most people don't even think of people on Facebook as real people. They just think like we, click buttons and serve ads to robots and we just double our budget every day and everything's good. But, we're dealing with real people here. And so you have to remember that they're clicking an ad, and where you send them plays a massive part in whether or not they convert, especially if you're running, we talked about market awareness levels, more prom aware or unaware style ads. If you're sending someone from an unaware ad to a fucking product page, like, what are you doing? Like, obviously you can get that to work, But try sending that to an advertorial, try sending that to a list goal, or just a proper LP that just explains that angle or for that persona specifically. And it seems like not so many people just don't talk about this, but it's like it's an absolute no-brainer. And that's why it works so much. And our hit rate on LPs went up significantly when we started doing that. But the most important thing, the final thing I'll say, because again, should just be Spencer's ranting podcast, but make sure you actually look at the ad that you're making the page for. And that's exactly what we did there. And that's exactly why it worked.
You know, it's funny as well. We used to have a client selling shapewear, right? You tell him to test LPs and nothing will work, Just like you test creatives, right? You can test creatives, doesn't mean you're gonna win. LP, same thing. Just because you make an LP doesn't mean it's gonna do well. So he was always saying, "Oh, my competitor, he only does product page. It always works well for him. And LPs won't work for us." I spoke to the guy who runs the competitors' ads the other day. The best pages for them are the landing pages.
Yep.
But he didn't want to believe it. So just like we said, there are winning creatives and also winning landing pages. So that's how we would test it also.
100%.
The next one. Just got off a call with $100 million per year Shopify brand. Pull up the ad library, pull up our ad library. They have 20 times more ads running and are generating 50 times more content. The difference between a $10 million and $100 million brands is not a 10x.
Damn, period.
Period.
Yeah. I mean, that call for me was there's certain calls where beliefs are just broken.
Yep.
And you just have this way of thinking and it's ego a lot of the times, but you have this one way of thinking and you're like, this is the only way to do things. And for us, that was creative strategy, right? We were all about like the only way to scale is creative strategy. You have to have creative strategy dialed in, and creative strategy working with creators as well, like content creators, is just like all about, scripting and all this kind of stuff. This dude was just full chatting it. He did no creative strategy at all, but he scaled to $100 million. And so that for me was like just a massive slap in the face. Like, wow, I am completely missing something here. And, I sometimes, I wish I had somebody to tell me this sooner, but I want to say on a small point, and then I'll go back, is like, that's why investing into people that are ahead of you and are doing big numbers is one of the, like, it's just such a no brainer. Like if I didn't talk to that guy, I would still be doing the same. I mean, not dumb shit, but like I wouldn't have had the engine. We talked about this recently. We just scaled the brand from, it was like 0 and now they're doing like 70, 80K a day in like 5 or 6 months or something like that. And that wouldn't have been possible unless I learned the system from this guy that I spoke with and that I made the tweet about. And so many people are just sitting there like thinking they know everything. And, dudes, we see it all the time coming in Evolve doing like 100K per month. And they're like, well, what else can I learn? It's like, bro, come on, man. But anyways, back to the tweet. I think, yeah, bro, we severely underestimate, and shout out to Alex Ramosi as well, but we severely underestimate like how much it actually takes. And, when this guy told me the volume and the numbers that he was doing, it just made me realize like, wow, like we're not doing anything, like we're making 5 to 10 videos a month. This guy's making 100 to 500 videos a day and still within 10, right? With the system that he created. And so, yeah, I think a lot of the times everybody wants big numbers. Obviously, people who jump in and listen to you speak and read your tweets, they want to do big numbers, but they just severely underestimate like what it takes. They think to, go from 100K per month to $1 million per month, they've just got to start doing some creative strategy and test, an ad a week or something like that. It's like, dude, if you're going to test an ad a week, you better be absolutely dialed in. Obviously, you still can, as we've mentioned, but I think we just severely underestimate either the intent it takes or the volume that it takes. And that is just a great example of it. And, very, very grateful for that conversation. It's not all the time you can sit down and chat with a, $100 million per year brand owner, but, I had that opportunity and, look what it's done for us.
Awesome, bro. On the way to the next tweets then. Scaling to 100K per day is easy, only if you understand growth loops. Most brands that struggle to scale don't have a growth loop. Here's what most brands do. Copy competitor ad, refresh the ad accounts, hoping for it to convert, watch the ad fail, majority of the time, 99% of the time, get lucky when your ad works 1% of the time, and wait for your competitor to upload more ads so that you can copy them. It's a great way to stay small, right? But the truth is, most brands who are doing 100K a day aren't really ripping what their competitors are doing. they are lapping them. Why? It's because you mentioned that they have proper growth loops. Here's what a 100K per day brand does. They research their customer avatars, leverage that research to create their own ideas, turn those ideas into brief for ads. Watch ads fail 90% of the time, but win 10% of the time now. Improvement. So the process in-depth analysis of their winning ads to make even better ads that get their customers' attention, and it's a whole loop that repeats. So if you want to get unbelievably dialed on, learning from what actually works and what doesn't, you might be able to scale to 1 million a day if you dial it in. So if you struggle to scale with growth loops, and you don't understand why your ads aren't working, you mentioned you are happy to share what you do. So please do share.
I think the biggest difference between the brands, and I say this about a lot of different things, but honestly, the biggest difference between the brands that scale and the brands that don't is they just understand why things work. And we've talked about this before, so I don't need to hammer it home any more than that. But yeah, it's like I think the reason why that tweet landed with some people because it's exactly what they do, and I think it's a great example of understanding your customer, right? Somebody that's doing that right now, looking at their competitor, ripping content, hoping the competitor posts more content, ripping that again, can't figure out how to scale past 5 or 10K a day, and that's their whole strategy. It's like that tweet is going to relate with them. And then my solution of like, here's what savages do that scale to 100K per day. It's a complete understanding of my customer. And I think that applies to, like I mentioned in the tweet, you and eCom as well. Like understand your customer, number one, and that's going to help you a lot more. But I think just people don't understand how lazy they are. And I think there's a benefit to being lazy because you'll find ways to grow that aren't always like nose to the grindstone. But at the same time, it's like, dude, you're just ripping other people's stuff. You're putting zero effort into any research. You don't care, and then you're just on Twitter complaining and wondering why you can't scale. Or even better, a lot of those people, what they do is they ask questions, they get answers, and then they don't do anything about it, right? And so I think for me, that tweet specifically is honestly it's just the raw truth, man. Like, and I think that's for anybody that's struggling to scale or anybody that's being lazy, maybe just needs a wake up call a little bit to just realize that, their system is just, I mean, can that work? Sure. But like, how long term is that? And like, are you building any skills at all doing that? No. And so I think putting in a natural good system, actually giving a shit, and actually wanting to apply things and put in the work after extended period amount of time, you're going to be where you want to be. And anybody that's hitting those 100K plus days, I think that's exactly what they've done.
Yeah, a lot of people come to us saying, I want to transition from drop shipping to brand. And when they do drop shipping, it's actually what they do, right? It's just copy paste, copy paste. I usually call them professional virtual assistants, and it's true, Some people do that, some people did that at 2018, 2019, 2020. Back then, those days were crushing. Some people are still crushing it now, but it's not like super crazy numbers you'll see. And the thing is, a few years down the line, I think it's only going to get harder and harder for those people. And at that point, it's like, get to that point where you don't build any skills already, things are going to get much, much harder for you. The dudes who actually take the time, put effort into learning the marketing, doing things their own way, these skills will only compound. How do you think you're going to get to 9 figures a year? That's by copy pasting more stuff.
Come on.
You can, but the operations to get there to build something with real brand, real brand value, nothing. So if people actually want to build real brand, something consistent, something they can exit for big amounts for, you're gonna need to it's a wake up call for you. You really need to just log in, figure out your marketing, so build something that's long term. Because if you, all people they still say, oh, I want to copy my competitor. That's my whole system. But there's no point of someone purchasing from you when they can purchase from them instead. So, and almost to the last question we have for today. If you want to stop eating shit in 2025, you have to stop looking for the next best thing. The number one thing that will help you have an incredible year is just doing more of what is already proven to work. If you are spending all of your time looking for the newest way to scale, thinking you have to go all in on the next big thing, you're likely just getting distracted.
Shiny object, bro.
Shiny object.
It's hard, especially as you start growing more and more, um, yeah, the objects get shinier. And I think there's times where I want to clarify, like, going from one thing to the next thing, I think is dumb. Like, we've been in ecom for 4 years, right? And if we were just going to go after these 4 years and go and start a local lead gen for med spas, like, it's just so dumb, because we talked to some dude that's doing 10 million a month in med spas, right? That, and we actually didn't, but I'm just saying in that example, like, it's just dumb. And I think people severely underestimate compound growth and, like, what can actually happen. Like, bro, 3 years ago, 4 years ago, we had no idea what we were doing, man. We had absolutely no idea. And not saying we know everything now. We are far from knowing everything now. But the point is like, we know a lot more than what we did, but that's because we stayed in ecom the whole time. We stayed in the game. And so I think there's a difference between completely transitioning and going off, which I think is dumb, and also pivoting. I think pivoting is at times very smart. One of our clients, or old clients that we had, had a local business in the fitness space. COVID came. It's like they had to pivot online, right? Or they decided to make that pivot. And that was a smart pivot for them. But I think a lot of the times people just get distracted, and they hear or see some other person talking about, doing all these numbers, making all these money. Crypto is like the best example of this. Like, oh, I was talking to this dude even at an event saying he made like 200K in a day in profit just from like one meme coin trade he made. And like, a lot of people might hear that and be like, oh, dude, I got to start trading meme coins, right? And then what happens? You stop making creatives. Now you're trading meme coins. And what happens? Well, you're not good at trading meme coins. And so you usually will end up eating shit. And now you feel shit because you ate shit. And then that affects the main thing. And it happened to a couple of people that we know, then they end up crawling back over here, and then they kind of got to build back up. Meanwhile, if they just stayed focused on this for the 6 months rather than trying to chase some stupid crypto bull run, they probably would have made just as much money, probably even more, right? And even if you don't, that time that you put in doing your main thing versus trying to chase something stupid will compound, so that in a year from now, 2 years from now, the money that you could have made over here, you're making that every single day. And I think I have so much respect for the people that have been able to stay consistent in that and make the right pivots in their industry and in their space, because there are times where you have to make pivots. Alex Hormozy pivoted from flying around and launching in gyms to just consulting them, and that, it ended up with them doing like 17 million in the next year or something like that. But the point is they're smart pivots, so I don't want to get that confused. But that tweet specifically, I think it's usually not new things that you need to do. It's just you need to do more, and you need to do them better. I feel like I'm just regurgitating what Alex says, but it's like, it's so true. Like, some of these people come in, it's like, oh, I need to test the newest media buying strategy. I need to test the newest platform, this, that. It's like, nah, dude, you just need to make more creatives. You need to make them better. And that's what's going to scale you.
Yeah, the example I like to give as well. One of my good friends, he's started running his health brand for 2 years. For this whole 2 years, he did nothing except Facebook ads and advertorials. 2 years straight, never did Google ads, never did AppLovin, nothing. Not the best, might not be the best idea, but basically, he only focused on these two things for 2 years straight. Now he's doing like 300K per day at like 30-40% margins. So, multi 7-figure net per month. It's absolutely chilling. Only two things he focuses on. That's the power of focus.
Depth, 100%.
Exactly. That will be all for our time today. Thank you for your time.
That's all we got. No more tweets.
No more tweets.
Yeah, see, I'm not as cool as you, bro. I don't have those kind of tweets.
You'll see. The next time you tweet more.
All right, fair play, man. I appreciate it.
Sure.